Stop for a moment before we go any further. Because what you are about to read is not speculation, not rumor, not the kind of social media drama that gets amplified and distorted as it moves from one comment section to the next. This is a legal filing. It is a court document filed in an actual courthouse, carrying actual legal weight. And when you understand every layer of what it contains, and who signed it, and who witnessed it, and what it leaves out, you will understand why so many people who have followed this story closely feel like they have just watched the final act of something that has been building for years. Let us begin where it actually matters. Marcus Lamb did not inherit a media empire. He built one. Starting with a single television station in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in the early 1990s, he and Joni grew Daystar television network into one of the largest Christian broadcast operations in the entire world, reaching over 64 million homes across the United States and broadcasting into nearly every country on the planet. That is not a modest achievement. That is a life's work. That is decades of sacrifice, of fundraising, of faith, of personal and professional risk taken in the service of a mission both of them believed in completely. When Marcus died on November 30, 2021, at the age of 64, after contracting COVID-19, he did not leave his family without a roadmap. He left a documented succession plan. He had communicated his intentions clearly to both the family and the Daystar board. Jonathan was next in line after Joni. The son, the firstborn, the man who had worked inside the ministry for years as vice president, was the person Marcus had chosen and put in writing as the one to eventually carry what he had spent his life building. That was not assumed. That was documented. That was Marcus Lamb's stated, legal intention. And then, step by step, everything he had arranged began to be dismantled. Joni stepped into the presidency after Marcus died and kept the ministry running. 2 years later, in June of 2023, she married Dr. Doug Weiss, a psychologist who had appeared on Daystar as a guest for years. The marriage was controversial from the beginning, not because of who Doug was personally, but because of the circumstances of his prior divorce. A 30-year marriage dissolved in a way that Jonathan, Susie, and at least initially some other family members believed did not meet the biblical standard for remarriage. Denise Boggs, a pastoral counselor who had known the Lamb family for years and who had actually counseled Doug and his first wife before that divorce, wrote a letter to the entire family urging them to stop the marriage. She described Doug in that letter as a wolf in sheep's clothing, said he was of no caliber for a platform as significant as Daystar's, and warned that Joni was operating under a spirit of deception because of his influence. Joni married him anyway. The children's opposition to the marriage, particularly Jonathan's refusal to publicly celebrate it, became the stated reason for the institutional pressure that followed. Jonathan's show was canceled. His salary was reduced, and then reduced again from $250,000 annually to $150,000, then lower still. His car was taken. His board seat was removed. Susie's role was dismantled, her salary cut to $1,000 a month retainer. And in November of 2024, on a Saturday, Jonathan was fired from Daystar entirely, with the termination letter delivered by the head of security who arrived at the family home carrying a firearm. Jonathan had also been raising documented financial concerns throughout this period, concerns about approximately $100,000 in honeymoon expenses charged to the ministry's corporate credit card and later gifted to Joni by the board rather than repaid, concerns about $5,500 in donor money spent on a personal photography shoot for Rachel, concerns about 24 round-trip flights on the ministry's private jet between Fort Worth and Colorado Springs, where Doug Weiss lived, during the period he and Joni were dating, and 13 additional round-trip flights to Florida, at a total estimated cost of more than $769,000. He raised all of these concerns internally, through proper channels, before any of it became public. He documented them. He recorded the meetings. He sent emails. And he was fired anyway. In the 12 months before her death, Joni made a series of significant financial decisions that the Trinity Foundation, an investigative ministry that monitors televangelists, documented carefully. At the time investigators first reported on her holdings in early 2025, Joni owned 7 residential properties across 4 states with a combined estimated value of approximately $11.7 million. They included her primary residence in Colleyville, Texas, a $2.9 million Gulfront condominium in Miramar Beach, Florida, that she and Doug had purchased together in September of 2023, and additional properties in Georgia, South Carolina, and other locations. In the final year of her life, she began downsizing. She sold 3 of those properties, including the Colleyville residence and homes in South Carolina and Granbury, Texas. And she placed 4 remaining properties into a trust, a legal structure that allows assets to transfer to designated beneficiaries after death without going through the public probate process. She sold her Colleyville home in October of 2025, with the new owner taking on a mortgage of $2,350,000. The reasons for this accelerated restructuring of her holdings have not been officially explained by Daystar or by her estate, but there is one detail inside that restructuring that stands out above everything else. Just 8 weeks before Joni died, in March of 2026, she signed a quiet legal document, a quitclaim deed, that transferred the $2.9 million Florida Beach condo, which she and Doug had purchased together, out of any joint arrangement and into her private trust. Doug Weiss's name was removed from the property before she died. Whether that was a unilateral decision by Joni or one made with Doug's knowledge and agreement has not been definitively established. But the legal effect is clear. The property that the two of them had bought together, in what was understood to be a marital asset, was placed into a trust that Joni alone controlled before she left this earth. After Joni died on May 7, 2026, at the age of 65, not at home in Texas but at a clinic in Mexico where she had been taken for treatment in her final days, Rachel Lamb Brown filed a legal document in a Fort Worth, Texas courthouse. The filing is formally titled an application for probate of will and issuance of letters testamentary. In plain language, it is Rachel asking a court to recognize Joni's will as valid and to officially appoint her, Rachel, as the independent executor of the estate. The document establishes that Joni Lamb died on May 7, 2026, at the age of 65. It identifies the estate as consisting of personal property, cash, personal effects, and household goods with a value in excess of $10 million. It names Rachel Lamb Brown as the daughter of the deceased and as the person applying to administer the estate. Then there are the witnesses. 2 people subscribed their names as witnesses to the will itself. The first is Arnold Torres. The second is someone named Michelle Martinez. The will was notarized by Rose Martinez, and it was made self-proved, meaning the witnesses executed affidavits affirming its validity at the time of signing, in accordance with Texas law, so that no additional testimony is required to admit it to probate. Now, Arnold Torres is not a stranger to this story. He has been Daystar's chief financial officer for a significant period. He was Marcus Lamb's financial man. When journalists were asking hard questions about the network's private jet, about the Paycheck Protection Program loan the ministry received and initially used to purchase that jet, about the money flowing through the organization, Arnold Torres was the one who stood in front of cameras and gave the official answers. Marcus trusted him with the finances. He was an insider at the highest level of the ministry's financial operations. Torres is also the man who, in recorded audio that has since become publicly available, told Jonathan Lamb directly that Joni was the authority and defended the policy requiring key ministry insiders to sign non-disclosure agreements. He was the voice of the institutional structure, telling the son of the founder to either fall in line or get out. And now his name appears as a witness on the will that completes that process. The legal document that places Rachel in charge of everything. The will itself directs that all remaining property passes not outright to any individual but to the then acting trustee of a revocable trust. The trustee of that trust is Rachel. The trust was established on March 11, 2026, just 8 weeks before Joni died. The same month she signed the quiet claim deed removing Doug Weiss from the Florida Beach condo. These 2 legal actions, executed in the same month, 2 months before her death, represent Joni's final restructuring of her financial world. And the person who emerges from that restructuring in the position of authority is Rachel. Jonathan was not called when his mother was dying. He was not there when she passed. He learned of her death approximately 10 minutes before Daystar announced it on social media. He found out from a lawyer, not from a sister, not from a family friend, not from anyone inside the household. From a lawyer. The will that was filed names all 3 children, Jonathan, Rachel, and Rebecca, and acknowledges Doug Weiss as Joni's husband. But the gift to the trust, the direction of the estate's assets, runs through Rachel as trustee. Jonathan holds no role in the administration of the estate. He has no oversight. He has no seat at the table. The ministry his father named him to eventually lead, the estate his mother accumulated during the years she ran it, the properties, the assets, the financial legacy, all of it now sits under the authority of his sister, administered through a trust established 2 months before their mother died. And the CFO who witnessed that will, the man Marcus trusted with the ministry's money, the man who was on recorded audio defending NDAs that silenced Jonathan, has aligned himself with the document that formalizes Jonathan's exclusion. Reports are also circulating that multiple versions of Joni's will may have been submitted to the court, with questions arising over whether the version Rachel filed represents the most current expression of Joni's wishes or an earlier one that predates the final months during which her heart appeared to be softening toward her son. Board member Tom Callender reportedly told a family friend just 3 weeks before Joni died that Joni had said, "If Jonathan reaches out, give him back Daystar." Whether the legal document now before the court reflects that sentiment or contradicts it is a question the probate process will ultimately have to resolve. Stand back from all of it for a moment and look at what has actually happened here. A man named Marcus Lamb spent his life building a ministry on faith and sacrifice and put his son's name on a succession plan. That son spent years inside the ministry submitting to decisions he disagreed with, raising concerns through proper channels, taking his frustrations to internal meetings rather than to journalists, and holding his position as vice president with what every available record suggests was genuine commitment to doing the job right. He raised objections to financial decisions. He raised concerns about his daughter's safety. He said he could not publicly celebrate a marriage he believed was built on questionable ground. And for each of these things, he paid a specific, documented price, until he had nothing left inside the organization his father built and his mother ran. Now, with both of them gone, his sister stands as the trustee of an estate valued at over $10 million, the executor of a will witnessed by the ministry's CFO, and the woman effectively in charge of determining what Marcus Lamb's legacy looks like from this point forward. And Jonathan, the man Marcus named in writing, the man Joni reportedly asked to be given back Daystar in her final days, the man who said in his own statement that he remains ready to serve, is, as of this filing, outside all of it. Not by his own choice. Not because he walked away. Not because he failed to do his job or abandoned the calling. But because a legal document, executed in a courthouse in Fort Worth, Texas, by people who knew exactly what they were doing, made it so. What the courts and the board do next will determine whether that is the final word, or whether the story this family has been living through has one more chapter still left to be written.